Friends, last year your dollar lost a ton of value. Inflation rose by almost 7% in just 1 month toward the end of the year. And that means in 30 days, your dollar became 93 cents. Inflation is a silent killer. It is a hidden tax that is felt by everyone. And this administration, yes, the Resident's Day, is only making it worse. Inflation is not slowing down, it's escalating quickly. So gold provides a hedge against inflation and can protect your family's wealth. Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust for investing in gold and silver, and they also do a lot of other investments like cryptocurrency. You need to diversify your portfolio. So you have to take this seriously, friends. Oil prices are rising. We've seen supply chain issues, and all of this is going to compound our inflation problems. You can trust Legacy Precious Metals because they give you unbiased counsel that is based off of your personal situation. So you can speak to an IRA expert at Legacy Precious Metals at 866-528-1903 or download the free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, or call them at 866-528-1903.
As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Welcome, friends, to the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Sebastian Gorka, former strategist to President Trump, sitting in for Jenna Ellis, who she's been working so hard, she has to give her throat a little break because of all the broadcasting she's been doing. So I'm delighted, I think the first time ever, to sit in as a guest host for her podcast. So for those of you who aren't familiar with my background, I've known Jenna for years. She's been a regular guest on my radio show, America First, on the Salem Radio Network, and also on my Newsmax show, The Gorka Reality Check. I served in the Trump administration in the White House as deputy assistant, as strategist to President Trump. My background is national security, especially counterterrorism, and understanding our enemies, which is really the subject of what I wish to discuss with you today. My parents suffered as children in Nazi-occupied Hungary during World War II. After that regime was replaced in 1948 with a communist regime, my parents were persecuted by that regime. My father, as a young student in college, was betrayed by a double agent called Kim Philby, was arrested, was tortured by the secret police, and at the age of 20 received a life sentence in a political prison. He spent 2 years down a prison coal mine, 2 years in solitary, and then eventually was liberated from the political prison in Budapest by the revolutionaries of 1956. And it is incredible. It is a true indictment, I believe, of our civilization's weakness, that today, in 2022, we are witnessing the same scenes that we witnessed in 1956. Civilians being shelled, Russian tanks on the streets of civilian cities. In 1956, it was Budapest, it was Debrecen. Now, it's Kiev, it's Kharkiv. It is the streets and the cities of a free, or erstwhile free, Ukraine. As a conservative who was born and raised in the UK, my formative years were under the incredible prime ministership of Margaret Thatcher. I want to be very clear to my fellow conservatives, some of whom misunderstand or have been misled with regards to the events occurring the last week in Eastern Europe. As conservatives, we shouldn't be forced to choose between two polar opposites. the neoconservatives' idea that we should be invading other countries and turning them into quote-unquote democracies at the end of a gun barrel, vice the other extreme, the childish, naive isolationists, the neo-Buchananites, who say, who cares about the rest of the world? All I care about is Americans in America, and the rest can go to hell. That didn't work in 1941. It didn't work on September the 11th, and it doesn't work right now when a nuclear power invades another country to steal that country's territory and to rape its citizens. I'm not an interventionist. I am far from being a neoconservative. I share the views of my former boss, President Trump, that it is not our job to be the world's policeman, to invade other countries and attempt to remold them. But the world is a safer place when America is strong. There's a reason why, when we were in the White House, President Trump targeted 200 Russian mercenaries in Syria, and we had them killed because they were destabilizing that country. There's a reason that we kicked more than 60 Russian KGB officers out of America after the attempted assassination of a Russian dissident in the UK. There's a reason that we sanctioned Russia because of the Nord Stream pipeline that would create greater dependence on the Moscow authoritarians from Western Europe. Because we understand when bad guys are allowed to do whatever they want, sooner or later it affects us as well. Under the Trump administration, because we unleashed the fracking fields, we built the Keystone XL pipeline, we became, for the first time, remarkably, for the first time in American history, a net exporter of energy. We actually were selling more energy than we were using in America. In the last year, under Biden, with the cancellation of the XL Keystone pipeline, with the dropping of sanctions against Russia, which is an authoritarian regime, is now the fourth greatest importer of oil to America. We are dependent again on authoritarian regimes like Vladimir Putin and on monopolies and cartels like OPEC. So when we are weak, bad guys take action, whether it's China, whether it's Little Kim launching missiles again, whether it's Iran, or whether it's Putin. And on a broader conceptualization of the recent events, we have to ask ourselves, what makes America special? How were we born? If the spirit of 1776 has anything to do with that line, made in the image of our Creator, if we are endowed with unalienable rights because we are made in the image of our Lord, well, that applies to Ukrainians as well. It's not just Americans who are made in God's image. All humans are. And those humans who are free or who wish to stay free should be supported in their fight for liberty. Not by the 82nd Airborne dropping into Kiev, but by doing the following. And these are my recommendations. You can read all of them in detail in my upcoming article at Conservative Brief. You can see a longer version of my ideas in my CPAC address just before the president addressed CPAC on Saturday. I got to address the 18,000 attendees there as well. If you want to see the video of the president's speech, of my speech, then follow me. I'm on all social media platforms, Twitter, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Also locals, that's gorka.locals.com. You should watch the video. But here's the summary. Now, this won't happen under Biden, but this is what needs to happen. We need to unleash our energy sector once more. We need to reconstitute the XL Keystone pipeline extension. We need to open up the fracking fields because that's really, short of nuclear war, that's the only way to hurt Vladimir Putin. He's a one-horse town, the only thing they have. They don't have technology. Nobody buys Russian cars around the world. They don't have innovation. They don't have high-tech. They have oil and gas. That's all they have. If we can drive down the prices because we have our own energy, that hurts him. Right now, we have, first time in history, a warmonger who's not going bankrupt because he went to war, but who's actually making money because of the Biden administration, the Germans, and everybody else who's buying his fuel, his oil, and his gas. So, number one, make us energy independent again. Secondly, we have tens of thousands of US troops in places that make no sense, like Germany. Germany is the richest nation in Europe. Why are US troops on the territory of Germany? Germany should be serious about its NATO commitments and should be able to protect itself. So those troops that are in places that don't really need our protection, those troops should be redeployed to frontline NATO nations. Vladimir Putin has made it clear, he said it more than once on the record, the greatest quote unquote tragedy geopolitically of the last century was the loss of the Soviet Union, and he is trying to reconstitute it. No, he doesn't have the money, the Soviet Union did, but by taking Ukraine, that's his first step, and he won't stop unless we stop him. He'll go after the Baltic states, he'll go after Poland. These are NATO nations that are our allies, are part of Western civilization, and these nations should be protected. So we should have US troops deploy in greater numbers. If the UK can send 2,000 troops in the last week to Estonia, I think we can step up to the plate. So send our troops as a message to that KGB thug, send them to the Baltic states, to Poland, to Hungary, to those frontline nations to say, this is the tripwire. You don't get to go into NATO territory, and we're serious, Vlad. Last couple of things, which can happen now and are happening on behalf of certain countries, is whilst we don't want to fight for Ukrainians, we should assist them in fighting for themselves. The first thing is to provide them with huge amounts of arms and ammunition. The Biden administration, when they surrendered Afghanistan, left more than $83 billion worth of military equipment in that country for our enemies. I think it's time to actually give weapons to our friends. So, we need to provide them weapons and ammunition so that they can fight for themselves in the spirit of 1776. And then lastly, something that can be also done instantly is provide them with intelligence. America is peerless. Nobody comes close to the capacity we have for real-time intelligence from military satellites, signals intelligence, from ISR, so that's intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. We should be providing the best real-time intelligence to make the Russians in Ukraine bleed, to attack that 40-mile-long convoy that is allegedly on its way to the capital of Kiev, and to help the Ukrainians fight for their own liberation. Let's talk about the Ukrainians. Those are my 4 recommendations. Let's close by talking about the Ukrainians and talking about the man who is Vladimir Putin. Firstly, Putin. What do you need to know about him? He's no Machiavelli. He's no Clausewitz. He's not a great strategic mind. He's a thug. He's a murderer. He's a killer. He's a former KGB colonel who was such a third-rate or fourth-rate KGB officer that instead of being posted to the really choice posts during the Cold War, which are always, if you're coming from Moscow as a KGB agent, it's either the Court of St. James in London, either it's being posted to your embassy in Paris, or Berlin, or most of all, if you're really the best of the best, you get posted here to Washington, D.C. to spy on the number one enemy. Where did he get posted? Vladimir Putin was such a third, fourth tier garbage officer that he got posted to Berlin. And not West Berlin, not where the Europeans were hanging out to be spied upon. He was posted to East Berlin. That's how ineffectual he was, or lacking in impressive credentials during the Cold War. So this is his revenge. He was slighted as a professional in his career. He sees the loss of the Soviet Union as a tragedy, and now he's taking his revenge. But he's not a great mind. This isn't, a great military thinker, the Napoleon of the Rusland. This is a man who is a classic Soviet. He goes by the old axiom of push the bayonet into the belly of your opponent until you feel steel. He's actually a reactive actor. So how far he goes is up to us, the Ukrainians, the NATO nations. It's time to send him a message. And when you have the news yesterday of Finland, neutral Finland, saying we're going to arm the Ukrainians, yeah, that'll change the equation, because the Finns know how to kill Russians, and there's nothing they like more than killing Russians. When you've got the nation that takes its neutrality as some kind of sacred act, Switzerland, never wanting to get involved in anybody's war, saying that they are going to participate in the sanctions against Russia, the tide is turning, and he may have bitten off more than he can chew. So he's not crazy. He has a logic. It's not our logic, but he is brutal, truly ruthless, brutal, and murderous. But when he feels strength and resistance, it changes his calculation. What about the Ukrainians? Look, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. This is a problematic nation, corrupt in many ways, unstable, but it's a free nation that deserves to stay free. It's not an authoritarian regime. It's not a dictatorship like Russia or China. And the message that the Ukrainians have sent in the past is a very clear one. Stalin, the Soviet dictator, is responsible for the murder of more than 8 million Ukrainians in the Holodomor, the forced starvation of Ukrainians in the 1920s. 8 million. As such, Ukrainians who haven't forgotten that will fight to the last man, will fight to the last breath. The idea that this will be easy, well, in the last week he's already learned that this is not going to be easy, and the Ukrainians will fight. And if that's the only connection we have with them, it is a very, very strong connection. I know that we are fed up with dumb wars, with Americans bleeding and dying in places that really aren't relevant. But Ukraine is relevant, because when a bully is allowed to do whatever they want, go back to your childhood. What happened to the bully in the playground who was allowed to be a bully, who wasn't stood up to? He continued to bully more and more people. So, if we believe in 1776 in freedom, liberty, the pursuit of happiness for ourselves, we should believe in it for others, such as the Ukrainians. We should support them. We should provide intelligence, weapons, and ammunition so they can fight for themselves. If you know your history, you know that we wouldn't be a free nation today if it weren't for the French. If the French hadn't resupplied our revolutionary founding fathers, you'd still be talking real English like me. Seriously, it's time to help those who will help themselves. As you go to bed tonight, please say a prayer for that brave president, Vladimir Zelensky, who, when the Biden administration offered him an evacuation flight out of Kiev, he said, God bless him, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition. That's true leadership. Unlike the senile old man in the White House, that's what courage and standing up for Western values looks like. So tonight, as you say your prayers for your loved ones, for this nation, for those who protect this nation, say a prayer for President Zelensky and the young men, even the old men, because nobody's leaving Ukraine, all of those who have been given an AK-47 and a crate of ammunition are going to stand there and fight for their freedoms, for life, liberty, and the pursuit of their happiness. I'm Sebastian Gorka, in for Jenna Ellis. If you want to know more, check out my latest book, The War for America's Soul. Please follow me on all social media platforms, Seb Gorka, Sebgorka, or Sebastian Gorka on Instagram. You can join my locals community at Gorka. gorka.locals.com. That's GORKA.locals.com. Or my website, where you can listen to my show, sebgorka.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. God bless you all. I'm Sebastian Gorka, honored to have sat in for Jenna Ellis.
Right now, Mike Lindell is having an incredible deal, and he's calling it the sale of the year. So for a limited time, you'll receive 60% off the Giza Dream Sheets that come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. You'll receive a set for as low as $39.99. I have these dream sheets. They're kind of awesome. I still love my slippers though, but you can use the promo code Jenna on all MyPillow product, not just the dream sheets, not just the MyPillow, not just the slippers, not just the robes, but even the towels, everything else. So for a limited time with any purchase, you will receive Mike's soft cover book for free when you use promo code Jenna. I've read his book. I told you, his testimony is so amazing, from crack addict to CEO. It's truly, absolutely a God story. And we all have stories of how God has intervened in our lives and has hopefully compelled us to accept his free gift of salvation and to start on a path of truth and to embrace the truth of who God is and how much he loves us. And, this book is amazing. Mike is amazing how much he's willing to stand firm, not just in the political sphere, but also with Christian truth, the Word of God. And you're going to love this book. So go to mypillow.com, click on the Radio Listener Square, use promo code Jenna. And along with this offer, you will also get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. So go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-564-8475. Use the promo code Jenna. That's Jenna. You know, friends, that I talk a lot about faith, family, and freedom, like today's show. And we all know that the fight is on to preserve those things for America. And that's why I'm asking you to join me in being a member of AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. A subscription to AMAC is only $16 a year, and your membership is not only good for America, it's really good for you too. Because AMAC members receive countless benefits and discounts while also having their values represented in Washington, D.C. So AMAC carries your concerns straight to Capitol Hill with the AMAC Action Advocacy Team, reminding our leaders that we stand for faith, family, and freedom. With 2.3 million other AMAC members nationwide, we can all fight to save the America we love. So join AMAC today by going to amac.us/Ellis. If you've already joined AMAC, make sure to renew your subscription because America needs you. So join today and unite your voice with millions of other freedom-loving Americans. Go to amac.us/ELLIS today and know that you have done something really good for America, and especially today on President's Day.